What's up, beer seekers? Crew from BeerSighted here, and once again, in celebration of Massachusetts Beer Week, we are joined by another of Mass's biggest beer influencers and craft beer personalities. Tonight, we have Erika, aka the Boston Beer Girl, stopping by to chat with us. Erika, welcome, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we have a lot to dive into tonight and discuss since it is Mass Beer Week. But we first want to start off with how you ended up in the craft beer media scene, if you will.
Yeah, so I went to college in Rhode Island right when the craft beer scene was just starting to come to fruition. So being in Rhode Island, drank a lot of Narragansett, went to the liquor store. They convinced me to try their new chocolate donut porter. I was like, no way, I'm a light beer drinker. And then ever since I've been hooked on craft beer. So Untapped is a great app to chronicle what you're drinking, but I was looking for something just a little more creative. So on a trip to Portland, Maine, my boyfriend was like, Erika, your whole personal Instagram feed is literally just beer. Just make another Instagram account. So 4 years ago, almost to the date, I decided to make an Instagram purely for myself, and little did I know there was a whole community on there. So it's just been incredible. And who knew craft beer Instagram was the place to be?
Yeah, seriously. And happy anniversary. Well, cheers to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Nick's a big Rhode Island guy. He loves
you or I
being
myself.
Narragansett.
Oh, no way.
There you go.
Roger Williams.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
There's the connection.
I drink plenty of Gansett back in my
Oh, I still love Gansett. It'll always have a place in my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that craft beer scene on Instagram, you're right. It has absolutely blown up over the last couple of years. I mean, just with seeing all of these breweries start up. I mean, you mentioned that you didn't really know that there was the space yet, but I mean, how has it been? How has it been getting into like the influencer scene?
It's hard. The word influencer is just such a loaded term. I post what I like, I drink what I like, I promote the places that I like. If that makes me an influencer, so be it. But I don't know, that's a tough term.
As long as it's influencing people to go to those places, then I guess that it's probably pretty appropriate.
For sure.
Was there a point where you realized that, like, holy crap, I'm getting all these people to follow me, like this is becoming almost bigger than me?
Yeah, I mean, when I started back 4 years ago, there really weren't that many craft beer accounts. It was a lot of like older men who were just taking pictures at the bar. Really the only other beer influencer, if you will, was Lisa. So at Pork and Pints Boston. And then everybody, then slowly as time went on, more and more people came into it, and it's been so cool. And, pre-COVID, we had a lot of meetups, or I used my birthday as an excuse, but in it was 2019 at this point, I put out literally an open invitation for whoever wanted to come from Instagram to come drink beers at my favorite place, Public Kitchen in Wakefield. We had so many people show up. It was just so nice to meet the craft beer community from Instagram in person, drink awesome beers, and just be at such a cool place.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we've I think BeerSighted, we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary.
Congrats.
Which means we started like minutes before COVID destroyed America. So we can't wait to actually hang out with you and have a beer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we need to have one of those, because I feel like there's so many people that I've connected with through Instagram during this time. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be one busy lady when restrictions open.
It's got to pick a good beer garden where we can like just set up camp for a while, and
there you go.
Yeah.
Get a couple beers from a couple different places.
That sounds awesome.
That's the dream right now. We were wondering, since this is for Mass Beer Week, and Mass Beer Week's kind of is a big deal for people that are following Massachusetts beer and the growing craft scene here. Like, we've noticed, and your followers definitely have too, you do a lot of philanthropic type work through your accounts and recognition type action. We were wondering if you have anything planned for Mass Beer Week in that sense, or just anything big planned on your own Instagram social accounts that you want to get out there, and maybe we can help spread the word on that too.
Yeah. So one thing when I started Boston Beer Girl, my purpose was always support local beer, local breweries, small local businesses, and also to elevate women in beer. I feel like it is a very male-dominated industry. So anything we can do to raise women and support women brewers and things like that. So for Mass Beer Week, I have a few things going on. So informally, I'm working with at craft beer _K8, so craft beer Kate. So we have teamed up and we've found Massachusetts breweries that are on the rise. So every day during Mass Beer Week, me and her will be posting. We both have our own creative twist on each post, but we're going to be chronicling some of Massachusetts breweries that maybe don't get the love they deserve. So that'll be going on throughout the week. Sunday night, Alo Galinsky, so he is at Craft Beer Concierge. He works a craft beer cellar in Belmont, which is an awesome place.
Yeah.
So me and him are also going to do a beer tasting, also with breweries that we just think deserve more love. So we're going to go through those. And then I am absolutely honored that the Mass Brewers Guild reached out to me and asked me on Tuesday night to host a virtual event with Faces Brewing. So every week at 7 o'clock on Facebook Live, and then there's also a Zoom link if you register through Eventbrite, they're going to interview the freshman class. So these are breweries that I don't know how they did it, but opened during a pandemic and are thriving. So it's just a great opportunity to learn more about them, how they've been doing during the pandemic and their vision for the future. So there's even a shopping list. So if you want to drink along with all of the events, but I'm really excited. So Tuesday night at 7, Facebook Live, and then also there's a Zoom link if you register through Eventbrite, and I will be interviewing Faces Brewing in Malden.
There you go. Everyone check that out for sure. Did you envision doing anything like this when you first started?
No. I always loved I loved photography, and I always had a creative side. So I just figured I would combine a bunch of different passions, but the fact that it's gotten this big is just beyond me.
Yeah, and you mentioned all the new breweries freshman class and how impressive that is. I think Brandon and I were talking to the Mass Beer Bros, and there's over, I think, 25 breweries in Massachusetts alone that opened within the last year, which is pretty crazy. Do you think, we talked a little bit about this with some other guys, but do you think you've seen trends over the last year, given COVID, that will continue, like delivery beer, more to-go options? Do you think there's any big trends you see that'll continue in the beer industry?
I can't predict if they'll continue, but some things I hope continue. The idea that you can go on a brewery's website and order beer to either pick up or delivery, some of them are offering that. The fact that I used to drive like an hour to a brewery in Massachusetts and just go in totally blindly, like I don't know what I'm going to drink, I don't know what I'm going to bring home, but I'm going to go there. So that's been nice. I think just the way that they've adapted in general has been really incredible. I hope that we have more outdoor patios. And as New Englanders, open during the winter as well. I mean, come on, put on a jacket and sit outside and have a beer.
We're used to it, right?
I love it. I love
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument here from us four there.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I know, so as I mentioned, we started right before COVID, so we kind of pivoted and started talking about the industry during COVID quite a bit, but I feel like everything that happened with COVID and the pandemic, and suddenly everybody was like, well, why can't a brewery just deliver? Like, there's been no harm in any of this. So I'm really hoping that delivery, to-go beers, like you mentioned, just going online and ordering to go pick up, like, there's no reason, in my opinion. I don't know what the reasons were in the first place, but why can't we just keep doing these things? It's helped breweries, people that love craft beer have loved it. So I'm with you. I feel like those things should continue, and I really don't see why they would pull back now that we've got like this year trial of it. So I'm with
And
you.
shipping too.
Mm.
The fact that breweries
Yep.
are shipping, I think that's so awesome and can really expand their customer base. And people
Yep.
who don't live in New England or even Massachusetts can finally sip the nectar of the gods.
There you go. Yeah, and again, it's just like, why not? Did anybody do any harm in this period of time where we did this? I don't know. So yeah, I'm with you. I love it.
Erika, you mentioned wanting to support women in the beer scene in Massachusetts, especially. So I think that's a good segue into you telling us what you're drinking tonight.
Yeah, so I am drinking Tell Me I Can't, which is Bentwater Brewing out of Lynn. It's their Pink Boots brew. It has this awesome story. I wish I could remember it off the top of my head, the specifics, but basically it's based on a woman in Lynn who defied a bunch of odds. And she said that her biggest motivation was men telling her that she can't. So I resonate with that story. And I think this beer is so delicious. It is like so pillowy and the perfect New England IPA.
What are some other breweries out there that maybe you could plug here that are women backed, women owned, women based that you've kind of had made a connection with?
So Redemption Rock out in Worcester. So they are not only a woman-owned brewery, but they're also a B Corp. And what I think is so awesome about them is that they pay their workers a living wage, and then everything that comes in for tips, they pick a different charity every month. So they are truly living their mission, giving back to the community, especially out in Worcester, which has been awesome. Craft Roots Brewing in Milford. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Sam Adams has a head female brewer, which is awesome.
Yeah. And there's actually a great story on Redemption Rock about how they became a B Corp, which is really cool. I read an article a few months ago, but it's pretty impressive what it takes to do that. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the craft beer community, especially like in Massachusetts, and we see it easily because we all live here, is, you know, that they are moving into like this awesome community of like being socially aware, social justice, everything. You know, it's kind of like the craft beer scene is moving into, this whole atmosphere that we're not used to.
Yeah, I think that was really evident, especially with the Black is Beautiful movement. And to have, I think it was over 20 breweries in Massachusetts who took part in that. And to see that, and even the collaborations. I mean, Trillium worked with White Lion out in Springfield. Widowmaker and Brockton Beer just came out with Soul. I'm really looking forward to trying that beer. But that's also the beauty of the craft beer industry. And I think that's what draws me into it even more is, you know, what other industry do you have companies that are seemingly competition that are collaborating and helping each other? At the beginning of the pandemic, they were reaching out, who needs crowler machines, who needs cans, how do we help each other? And even during the pandemic, the amount of collaborations that have come out for some really fantastic beer has just been so cool to see. And that's like one of my favorite parts about the craft beer industry is just how inclusive and community based it is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that since we started BeerSighted, since I started, really paying attention to and getting involved with craft beer, it's fascinating. And I previously had a corporate job where it's all about competition, and looking at the craft beer industry, it's just amazing that you don't even hear about that. I almost feel like breweries wouldn't talk about it in that way because that's not what it's all about. And I just think that's the coolest thing.
Totally.
So Erika, you obviously travel a lot to different breweries, and I know this year's been a little tough, obviously. Do you have any idea how many breweries you think you go to in a typical year, or how many you've gone to?
Oh my goodness.
Really putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I don't know. And I'm such a bad Untapped user. I'm like, I'm going to use every year it comes out with how many you've checked in. And it's always like, 70. And I'm like, oh, I drink way more than 70 beers a year. I don't know. I think that's something like post-COVID when we're back out and able to travel more. I'd be really curious to see because I'm sure the number is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I tried really hard during the beginning of the pandemic. I made a pledge that every weekend I would go to at least one brewery. And if you've seen the map of the breweries in Massachusetts, usually there's one not too far away. So that one brewery ended up, well, what else is in the area? So even last year, I would say I traveled to a bunch for takeout beer, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, I couldn't even ballpark that number.
Did you get out to like Central Mass or Western Mass even? I know, Tim, you were out in Western
Or
Mass
like way
recently,
Western Mass. There's like Western
Yeah.
Mass, and then there's like the back part of the state.
New York, East New York.
Almost New York, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that the Western Mass, I feel like there's a conglomerate of breweries out in Western Mass that if you're in Eastern Mass, if you're in the Boston area, it's not that easy to get to them. But I don't know. That's one of my goals post-COVID is to try and get out that way more.
So the weekend after everything shut down, I actually had a trip planned to Western Mass for a bunch of breweries out there with another beer Instagrammer. So I cannot wait to get back out there. I feel like there's so much to be discovered. But I will say another thing that I think is really cool that COVID kind of forced the hand is just in terms of distribution. I mean, Building 8 is way out there in Western Mass, and I got cans of that at 4 Point Market. Just to see, I mean, some of the breweries that we're gonna post next week, I've heard of them. They're on my list of places I wanted to go, and then to go into my local liquor store and see their cans, I was overjoyed. So I'm really excited to feature them next week as well.
Very cool. So before we let you go, one thing I wanted to ask you, with Mass Beer Week, where we really want to support Mass beers and breweries, but I wanted to know, what are some Mass breweries that you've been to that you really like that maybe we haven't heard of, or, a craft beer fan might not know of off the top of their head?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So East Regiment out in Salem, they're awesome, and they have the coolest space. They started canning throughout the pandemic. You do have to pick it up there. Don't sleep on them. Channel Marker is incredible too. They're also in Beverly, so if you're making the trip, just go to both.
Yep.
I talked to
speaking to us here.
I talked to Lisa from Pork and Pines Boston. She's like, "Oh my God, Erika! Like, did you try this Siren series? Oh, this Siren series."
Oh, yeah. Love the Siren series.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the North Shore, I think of them. South Shore Untold Brewing is unbelievable, and they've started distributing, which is awesome. Widowmaker is starting to get on the radar, and I'm really excited about that because I feel like they've been incredible. Trying to think. And then I think Central Mass is having their moment too. I'm really excited about Sterling Street Brewing that just opened. I'm dying to get out there in Clinton. Bullspit Brewing is out there as well. Cold Harbor. So before COVID, my office was out in Westboro. So on my way home, I'd usually stop by. They have this teeny tiny tap room, but their beers were always great. And now I'm seeing their cans in liquor stores, which is awesome. So,
Did you ever have, I think it was called Feathers. I think it was a New England IPA. Did you ever have that one from Cold Harbor?
I don't think so.
I had it last summer. It was so good. I don't know if it's just a summer thing because I tried to go back and it wasn't there. But Feathers or Feather, can't remember. I had it like last June, but it was so good. It's a good one. So Cold Harbor, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
So we put Erika on the spot, but I'm going to put us all on the spot. Each of us have to now name a brewer, just one for now. Just keep it short. We don't need to list them all off, but a brewery that we think people shouldn't sleep on. And I have the reason I'm posing this question because I have an easy one. I recently went to Oak and Iron in Andover. I don't know if you've ever been there. It was beautiful. Like it was like it was what I wanted to see in a brewery. It was like in a little factory building, brick and kind of dark, and they had an outdoor spot too. But I got their flagship IPA, and it was absolutely delicious. So Oak and Iron's my must visit that maybe you haven't heard of, and now the rest of the guys have to do one too.
Oh, well, you know what mine's going to be, and I'm a little biased, but Ground Effect in Hudson is one of my favorites. I didn't even know it existed until I moved out here. Everyone talks about Medusa, which is also absolutely phenomenal beer, but everyone seems to talk about Medusa. So you go to Medusa and you can almost go across the street. Ground Effect's my my underdog brewery.
I guess, well, for me, I go two ways with this. One that Nick went one down, the brewery that's down the street from him that he can probably walk to. I'm gonna go to one that I want to go to because I've seen pictures and like experience. Eric, I don't know if you've been. The Wachusett Brewing Company has like their brew woods, or they have like a woods setup with picnic tables and looks like outdoor games. And when I went skiing out in Wachusett, I passed a highway sign that had at the brewery on the exit on the sign, and I was like, that's this far out, that's very reasonable. And I could kind of see in the distance where like it would be, and it's like I saw pictures and I want to definitely go there. I know it's kind of a bigger brewery in the state. And then I'll go back to one of our old favorites is Bog Iron in Norton. Those guys are honestly one of the first group of guys in Massachusetts to like welcome us in and take us for real, take us on a tour, show us the ropes. They have a really cool space that they're still developing as they've just gotten bigger, and in the winter they've had igloos. So they're just a bunch of guys that are really cool, really welcoming, and their experience, even though the place is on the smaller side, is great.
Well,
Yeah, I want to get out to Wachusett Brew Yard so bad.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Erika took both of mine. I was gonna say.
East Reg is totally yours.
East Regiment. I love those guys. Josh and Scott do a great job. I love going in there. You're right. The building is incredible. I mean, downtown in Salem, and they bought it's the first fire department in Salem, or it's a historic fire station in Salem. So like super cool. And I love Channel Marker. Their beer is fantastic. And I'm just going to name the town of Beverly, to be honest, like all of Beverly. Great. We love going to Backbeat. We love going to Wandering Soul, or Wandering Soul obviously has great beer. We love going to Old Planters. So check all of them out. And so once again, before we get you out of here, tell everyone just where they can find information on you if they are looking to, again, get your latest stuff for Mass Beer Week, and, where they can find you and just stay up to date with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, so follow me on Instagram. I'm at BostonBeerGirl_EJ.
There you go. You post all your updates there?
I do. And then there's a link in my bio that will take you to all of the links for Mass Beer Week as well, if you want to RSVP to those events, and would love to have you tune in.
There you go. That's perfect, beer seekers. Check it out. Watch Erika in Mass Beer Week as she does the freshman class interview, and then everything else she's doing. Stay up to date on that stuff. And you can stay up to date with what we're doing by checking out our Instagram page and our social media at BeerSighted Pod. Follow us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for all of our video content, and stay up to date with BeerSighted.com as well. Erika, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight, and happy Mass Beer Week. Cheers.
Happy Mass Beer Week.